I just like the idea of being creative. I like that in real estate, there's no salary cap, quote unquote, meaning that however hard I work is however much I can earn versus, say you sign up for 9 to 5, you make $20 an hour, that's what you make. And that doesn't matter how good you do. And so from being an athlete, I resonate with the idea of however much work I put in, I can expect to receive that on the back end. So I really like real estate for that reason.
Welcome back to our podcast. The better you are, the better you are. We thought it'd be great and exciting today to do a series of discussions with different professionals about what they do and what their professions are. I know that when I was growing up, I had never seen a Black physician. I had never seen a female physician. So it never occurred to me to even think about being a physician until somebody, my dad, dropped that idea into my head simply by asking me, have you thought about being a doctor? Now,
All right.
Eric, you're a luxury real estate advisor for Compass Sports and Entertainment. And you said that your athletic background as a former football player, as well as your educational experience in sociology and entrepreneurship at the University of Oregon and the University of South Florida, helped prepare you to excel at your profession. Tell us why that helped prepare you
Yeah,
and
for
what you
sure.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just start with what I do. Real
Okay.
estate advisor, basically real estate agent. I help people buy, sell, and lease properties, big and small. When I first got into real estate, I think one thing that's helpful, I think in any profession, is to be known for something. You can like for example, you have to deliver babies, you're known for that, right? If you just said I'm just a general doctor, right? It's kind of hard to specialize in something. It's hard to pick up clients. It's hard to elevate your career. And so for me, when I first got into real estate, I was just a real estate agent for anybody, and that's good. But I felt like I needed to be known for something, and so I kind of thought about like, who am I? What's kind of the low hanging fruit? And I thought like, all right, well, a lot of my friends played sports. I can like lean on my relationships. And that's when I kind of developed a specialty or a niche of working with athletes and entertainers. And so, yeah, I just help my friends, which some of them happen to be famous, but help me, my friends with the real estate, helping them sell their home or buy their home or rent their home or look for a place to rent. And yeah, I played football in college and I was a sociology major, and then I transferred to USF. I studied entrepreneurship. So I just think that my background kind of helped me prepare for this. Real estate is it's somewhat of an entrepreneurial career in the sense that there is a general path, but every realtor is kind of creating their own little small business. And so using that kind of entrepreneurial background, I was kind of able to look at my skill set, my relationships, the opportunities in the Tampa market, and that's kind of how I developed my business, what I've been doing the last 9 or 10 years.
So what is a typical day for you like?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. There's nothing's ever really typical. I try to create a little bit of a routine because if you allow it, real estate's one of those professions where like if all of a sudden you have to get up and go show a property in South Tampa, and then all of a sudden you go to St. Petersburg, and all of a sudden you're going over here and over there, like you can kind of drive yourself crazy. So I try to have a little bit of a routine. I basically try to wake up around 7 o'clock every morning. I spend from 9 to 11 trying to like work on my business. One tricky part about real estate is like you have to develop your own leads and be your own lead generation. So like if I spend all day just selling houses, then I'll wake up in a few months and be like, oh no, I have no more houses because I sold them all. So I have to constantly try to find,
Ah,
you kind of fill up the pipeline, right? So I kind of try to like
okay.
add to my business before I go ahead and service the business I already had. It's kind of a tricky thing because you can't only focus on one, you have to kind of focus on both. So I try to spend the beginning of the day just, figuring out where my new leads could be, whether that's calling my past clients, doing some networking, things like that. And then I try to spend the afternoon helping the current clients, whether that's showings, whether that's just responding to emails or any different thing. But no day is ever exactly the same as the previous day, but I try to kind of have some consistent elements to make my day not feel so crazy.
Um, and so in you took something that you had a little bit of experience with and people you had a little and combined it with something that in your profession. Um, and I think that's important. I think it's important you can't just say, I want to go out and do this. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I don't really like what I'm doing, or how can I make it more likable? How can I, as you point out, a little bit level where this is related to me?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think in anything like that, that's important. I think that was was very wise of you. And do you work every day?
Yeah, every day, Monday to Friday, and a lot of times on the weekends as well. Real estate, like, it's tricky because a lot of times my clients aren't available until they're done with their jobs. So that may
Right,
be
right.
6 o'clock in the evening or Saturday or Sunday. So I'm working during the week, but I may have to work on the weekends and do showings, or may have to do an open house or things of that nature. So I do work pretty much every day. I try to, maintain some balance. And, if I work on the weekend, maybe take Monday off or things like that. But the expectation is that, you have to be available. And it's kind of like the old sports quote that, like, your best ability is availability, in the sense of, like, if my client wants to see a house and I'm like, oh, hey man, it's Saturday, I've had a long week, how about we wait till Monday? They're probably going to call somebody else, because they want to see it when they want to see it. So you have to be ready for
Mm-hmm.
that. And if I can't do it myself, I need to have a system in place, whether that's a younger agent, a junior agent, or a partner that's available. So that way, if not me, somebody who's an extension of me is available. That way the client is never suffering.
So you also work with sort of a team of people who help you do your job, and I imagine you help other people out too. If they say, "Hey, I've got this client who's looking for a house like this," or something that you say, or I know you can work even across borders. It's not somebody can call you from California and say, "Hey, I'm coming to Florida and I want to look around. Or I have a friend." Um, that flexibility and that ability allows you is not so regimented, I guess is what I want to say. And I think what you're pointing out, but you still have to be a little bit regimented in what I do. I can't just say, oh, I'm sleeping in until 10, I'll roll over and maybe look at this house and do it, because it helps you stay on top of what's available. Somebody calls you, hey, I just happen to be coming in this weekend and I'm looking for a house that's like this, it's on the water, da 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 da. You're like, okay, let me see what I've got for you. Or but how important is that flexibility for you, um, compared to some people need that structure? I guess it's not as structured.
Yeah, that's the interesting part about real estate. I think a lot of people get into it because they like the idea of being their own boss, and they think that means I can work whenever I want to, when I want to, which that is to an extent true, but also you can't, it's one of those industries where you can't do anything without your clients, right? Like, there's certain industries, if you're just really great at finance, you could just, invest money and you could make a bunch of money and you don't need anybody else. But, like, I can't make a sale without my client. So, like, yes, I work when I want to, but I also have to work when my clients need me, when they want me. So I think you have to kind of, it's a service industry at the end of the day. And so if you don't have the right mindset, if you think you're going to go into real estate and kind of be like, hey, it's all about me, I'm going to drive my fancy car and go to brunch and
Mhm.
do these showings, and, like, you might be in for, like, a little bit of a rude awakening, because it really is a service industry and it's about, like, putting other people's needs first. And if that means that, like, hey, Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, we got to go see this house before church, or I got to go show somebody a house at 8 o'clock after they got off of work, like, that's what it takes. And so I think when you are first starting in real estate, you kind of have to do everything on your own. That's just kind of the nature of a startup. You're the sales, you're marketing, you're the CEO, you're the janitor, you're everything. But then as you grow, you're able to scale. So the big step for me was having a partner. So I have a 50-50 partner that me and him, we both trust each other. We both work hard. If I'm gone, he can take over. If he's gone, I can take over. If I have a special client, we can both tag team it. And then the next level of that is like, all right, maybe we have a junior agent, or maybe we have somebody in a different geographic area that, so, we're in Tampa, but maybe we don't cover the beach, but maybe you have somebody on the beach who's an expert at that area. So it's just about constantly growing and kind of evolving and expanding your game, so to speak.
What do you especially like the most about your job?
I like that every day is different, and I like that I'm helping people. I think when I'm really, really busy, I sometimes I can get bogged down in, like, the paperwork and, like, compliance and, like, some of the things that, like, I didn't get into real estate for, like the non-sales, the non-house stuff. But, like, when it comes down to it, like, I have, like, a day where I'm like, all right, the schedule's not too busy. I'm only working with at least one client today. They know what they want. They're a respectable person. They treat me well. Like, sometimes I'm like, man, like, I'll do this for free, honestly. Like, because it's like, it's just, when you see somebody who, like, they have that moment of, like, oh man, we found it. Like, we found the right house. Like, and you help them with that. Like, that's just a great feeling. And then, to be compensated for that is like, oh, like, okay, like, that's a bonus. So I think just being able to help people. And like I said, that every day is a little bit different. Although I like the structure, I think if I went to, like, a traditional 9 to 5 where I clocked in every day at 9 a.m., clock out I did that for a little bit right out of college, and I hated it, and I kind of like died on the inside a little bit. I did it for about 6 months after I got done playing football, and like I just lost all my energy and passion for life. I felt like I was just basically trading my energy for a salary and trading my assistance for a salary, and it just wasn't good for me. For other people, it may work, but for me, I just like the idea of being creative. I like that in real estate. There's no salary cap, quote unquote, meaning that however hard I work is however much I can earn versus, say you sign up for 9 to 5, you make $20 an hour. That's what you make. And that doesn't matter how good you do. And so for being an athlete, I resonate with the idea of however much work I put in, I can expect to receive that on the back end. So I really like real estate for that reason.
Ooh, I like that analogy. What do you perhaps not so much like about your job?
Yeah, like I mentioned, sometimes I just get overscheduled, and then that's when you're like not having fun because you're like, all right, it's 10 o'clock and I'm supposed to be here and I want to be like really present, but I also have an 11 o'clock on the other side of town. And I've got a Zoom call at 1. You're doing too much. You're trying to be too many people at once, and you get spread too thin. So that can stress me out. And then I think sometimes too, just getting caught up in like the non-real estate stuff. I'm sure everybody's profession has this, where for us it's compliance, paperwork. We wouldn't imagine the amount of paperwork we have to do. And it's like, even after the house is sold and I'm waiting to get my commission, but my broker's like, oh, well, you didn't sign this one document, so we can't pay you. And you're just like, the buyer bought the house already. They're already happy. They're living in the house, but you're worried about the paperwork. Like, so it's stuff like that, like I said, I think every profession has some of that blue tape where you're kind of like stuck, like, it's not what you signed up for, but you have to do it. So some of the compliance, paperwork, kind of stuff like that can kind of frustrate me. But I did hire somebody to kind of help me with some of that stuff. So my admin now kind of takes care of some of those things. Because I think one thing about like any entrepreneurial like profession is like, what are the things that you like to do and then that you do well, and like focus on those, and the things that you don't like to do or that you don't do well, like let's outsource those. So like if you're not the best note taker, maybe you hire somebody to take notes for you. Or if you're not the best, if you're not the most detailed person, like have an assistant, things like that. Like if you're a people person, then maybe have somebody back end to help you with the paperwork, just whatever it is, kind of playing to your strength, and also having the self-awareness to know what you're not good at.
So I think that's an excellent piece of advice, and you don't have to be great in everything, and who it's okay to say I need some help in that, or to understand this is what I like doing. Some of it you just have to do. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna have to sit down sometimes,
Yeah.
but I can. I'm just like we all have those components of let me have somebody help me with that. So tell me, how important are the small things in your profession as well as maybe your life in general?
Yeah. They're very important. I mean, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but in real estate, especially, it can be a matter of not the difference between a word being capitalized or not, whether or not like a deal gets done or not. Or say, for example, you have a buyer who's looking to buy a house. He or she's put the contract in. They made the deposit and everything, and 10 days later, they're having second thoughts or having buyer's remorse, and they're like, "Hey, we don't want the house anymore. We got to figure out a way to get out of it." And you're trying to go through the paperwork and trying to find any little loophole to get out of it.
Ah,
And if the word property is lowercase spelled instead of capitalized, that might be a way to get it. It literally comes down to the spelling, and the difference between like and or and different things like that can be the difference between your client losing their deposit or getting their deposit, or being forced to close or getting out of their deal. So the details really matter.
wow.
It's tough
Wow.
because sometimes I do see myself as more of a big picture person and more of a relationships person, and kind of not always like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, are we really worried about this? But like you see, whether it's through your own mistake or through somebody else's mistake, that like I said, punctuation, wording, the time that something was done. If you miss, if something comes in at 12:01, all of a sudden the deal's off. There's things like that. So
Mm,
unfortunately, for better or worse, they are very important. And so I have to just understand that and accept that, and know that like, hey, I can't not be detail oriented if I want to be successful in this profession.
mm. And so in those regards, something happened that you didn't expect, or somebody wants to change the plan on you. How is it important to have a plan B, or what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, especially this year in this market is really important. Things are always changing. Real estate's always shifting, kind of like Brandon mentioned with the pandemic. When the pandemic first started for us, I was like, oh my gosh, I think real estate's done. I don't think you can't go outside, you can't do anything. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we're doing FaceTime showings, we're doing Zoom showings. So it's like you have to always be able
Mm.
to pivot and adjust and evolve. And back in the day in real estate, it was all about like they had printed out books and you had to go and like it was a different game. Now you have now everything's on your phone, you have GPSs to get you the property. So it's like you have to always kind of evolve. And I'm sure 5 years from now, real estate's going to look different as well. So just continually being able to evolve is super important, in this profession.
Yeah, and to your point, we learn things from the things that seem so devastating at the time. Well, now I appreciate a Zoom call. I appreciate that I can
Yeah.
meet with you and not have to drive across town or be at a full meeting. I can be at home and have a meeting and other things. And I imagine, particularly when people, it used to be I have to travel in to see this house, and now we have all these virtual ways to look at a home and everything to sort of get an idea of what you like and stuff. So just things don't always there's good in everything. There's a little bit of good in everything. All things work together for good. So well, tell me, is it important in your profession, as Brandon pointed out, to stay calm when something unexpected happens? You ever walk in like there's a dog in the apartment or something that we didn't expect that
Oh
or
my
whatever?
gosh.
Or
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a couple funny stories, but yeah, definitely, generally speaking, like really important to stay calm because the client, generally speaking, like buying or selling a house is like the biggest financial transaction somebody's going to make in their life. And they only do it maybe once every 10 years, every 15 years, where I do this every day, multiple times a week, whatever. And so the clients are going to freak out. And especially when it's something like, hey, the buyer's thinking about like, changing, canceling the contract, and the seller's going to freak out. And you're like, hey, this is unfortunate. It happens, but we're going to relist the home. We're going to take care of the issues. We're going to put it back on the market. So like having that be that voice of reason to keep your clients calm is very, very important.
yeah.
And also just kind of being like cool under pressure. I remember one time specifically, we had a listing that we're selling, and we go there a few minutes early to get the house ready. And the seller is like in the house still. He had a rough night the night before, and is like kind of barely awake. And so I remember like my partner took the buyer upstairs first, and I like kind of helped the seller, like, all right, hey, come on, man, we gotta get up, and like took him out the back door. And then the buyer came back downstairs, and we had like nothing happened, and it was like you have to always be calm. Like if I would have freaked out and like, oh my God, like, like that's not gonna help anybody. So I had to kind of be cool. Like, all right, John, you and I, let's divide and conquer. You take him upstairs, I'll go back, and just so like kind of like Brandon said, you have to always just think of a plan. And especially if you have a partner that helps you, because all right, one person's gonna fly the plane, the other person's gonna think about, talk to the safety patrol people, or talk to the people on the ground, or talk to the doctors, or whoever it may be. So I think not going about this alone is always helpful. People, especially being like an entrepreneur, like the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna be my own boss. I'm gonna do this on my own, and I'm gonna be the man. It's like that sounds cool, but I really do believe that you can go further in life by having people with you, whether that's business partners or just colleagues or people that you can confine to. So,
Indeed,
so yeah, staying calm and having somebody to kind of help you out is super beneficial.
Thank you for listening in today. Weren't you inspired, encouraged, and uplifted? We hope so, because we're praying the best for you. Join us again next time for more betterment, because the better you are, the better you are.